Okay, so I just want to take a few minutes to talk about scene composition with the diorama. Pardon my busy bench, but this is the way a bench looks in an artist's studio if they're busy, if they're working, right? That's the way it is. So don't get down on yourself because your bench becomes untidy because you're working like a beaver. Anyway, scene composition with the diorama is constant throughout the whole build. Notice how I have just a little bit of a backdrop sheet there. And all my, you know, items, subjects, sculptures, trees, models, they're all painted white first. It just impacts me visually more and it doesn't bias me to color because I don't want all those things in the way when I'm establishing composition. Like here's a funny little niggle right here. Like see this branch here? It's already painted. This is deadwood. Okay, driftwood. But I want to change the linear kind of tall, straight trunk of this maple because they don't really look like that. But since there's only, like here's the valance like for cutoff, which will be with this box diorama comes about, excuse me, down to here. I'm not going to, like this is going to be cut off again anyway, right? Like right here, like this will be trimmed down like all these will, like this big one right here as well, okay? But you want to be working the balance or the composition throughout the whole build, okay? So like if you have a main feature subject like a figurine, a tank, a car, vehicle, whatever, like get a rough idea where it's going to go and then pull it off the scene and put it away or keep it separate. Make the scene, the diorama, stand on its own without the vehicle, without the figure, okay? And then it'll be successful. You can tweak the spot where the figure or the vehicle or subject will go anyway. But don't build the scene around the tank or around the animal, the figure, whatever it is that you're doing, because it'll force your hand, okay, against the natural flow of scene composition, all right? Work it alone, work it separately, and carry it through the whole build, even into the color stage as well, and you'll be successful, okay? Be open to movements, a tree half-inch here, a quarter-inch there. Really enjoy this part of the process because that's the thrill, really, is composing the scene. And as you paint it and bring color into it, it'll transform, and the rewards are just really unexplainable. Like that's part of the whole reason to do it, right? Is just the enjoyment, okay? So be flexible, work the composition through and through, all the way through to the end, and you'll have a successful diorama, okay? So these were something that I just did amidst my other trees, right? Okay, so you can put them on dowels, you can build them on wire, you can do the loop thing, you can drill and push pieces in. Like here, like here's a couple of reject limbs I have. Well, I just say reject because you can still see the wire, but I can fix these up with fiber paste or crackle paste or any kind of paste, the acrylic, and just repaint these and smooth them out, which is what I'll probably do. But you can see that when you build on a dowel, and I use fiber paste for these larger trees and coarse molding paste, acrylic water-based. And this stuff goes a long ways when you're just putting the skin on here, on the dowel, and I just brush it on. That's here, like right onto a wooden dowel, right? You can taper these with a knife at first, be careful, and then, or a disc sander, you know, whatever, outside. And then I just take a brush and I just blob on the fiber paste and I just stroke it all down. And then I come at it with either let it kick for 10 or 15 minutes. It's up to you. You'll get the feel of it. And you just stroke it with a fan brush and or a rake, a sculpting rake. People have asked about this. You can get these at art supply stores in little sculpting packages. It's called a sculpting rake. Okay, that's the name in Canada for it. Anyway, that's where you get these from. I got this from Opus Art Supplies. In a little package, it was like $10 with a bunch of other little wooden spatulas and stuff. And this thing is great for doing this. for bark texture. Oh, it's a must-have. It makes short work. Actually, you know what? These trees, like these, take less time and are more fun to build than the other ones in some ways, because you put these aside a lot and you're not putting a lot of labor into them that way. You just do the bark, you paint it, you drill holes, and you insert your limbs, right? And they end up being awesome trees, right? But I'll talk about painting them and flocking them in the next episode. So this is a test piece, different colors I'm trying, and flocking for bark. And you can do really cool stuff with this too, with bark. Like this is semi-opaque, okay? So you can mix a bit of paint with water and in a cup and paste this onto a piece that's already gray, and it'll dry almost transparent and look like bark over there. Like you can do incredible. It's art like acrylic supplies, right? That's where it's at. It's all reused in the museums and film, right? Here's a tree of cedar. If you can find Western red cedar dowels, oh man, grab them. They seem to be very rare these days, like hen's teeth, man. Like they're soft, they're easy to machine, they drill easy, and they're lightweight, and they're just a dream to work with. You can use hardwood dowels, poplar, you know, whatever. I wouldn't use oak, but if that's all you have, you can also build these on PVC pipes too, like lower sections if you're just doing, you know, a shadow box or box diorama, or layout, a shelf layout with a lower valance on the top where you only see the old growth forest, like this kind of thing. But cedar works really good too, and these are just wires drooping. See, you can droop them down. Cedars look like that. You just bend it and shape it all day long, right? So, and then here's one. Oh yeah, let me talk about the roots first. So you can see, like, here's the bottom. I drill and put a pin in it. Probably preferably a nail if you can. This is bamboo. They will break, but if they do, you just re-drill the hole and put another one in. I just do it because I want to keep them light. But you can see this is all stem wire that's been CA'd. Like I just put some acrylic down first over the wood. Because CA loves acrylic, and then just glue stem wire pieces to it and bend them out, and then take a big blob of fire paste and just paint it on and feather it out. If you want to do 2, 3, 4 applications, you can, and it just blends away and feathers away. Because the roots of the tree really make a big difference. That's a game changer right there. Okay, here's a tree. This is a snag, like a broken off one from a storm, and then I got a small candelabra coming out of it. I haven't decided what color I'm going to paint this. Like maybe this is a hemlock growing out of a spruce. Like I don't know yet, but I'll decide that. This is flesh, light, lots of white with flesh paint. And then I'm going to put a dark wash over this. I'm going to show you that before I close out this episode. Just what a dark umber oil wash over acrylic does to this, okay? And then there's this one here, which is almost done. I got to put an umber wash over this. And this is, this was like this, right? At some point, but not dark brown, but the branches are the same. Like they're ready for flocking. These now, like they're dark. See how I left them a bit dark here? So when you put green on here, like that's what they look like from a distance, right? Like, or even up close, these ones. This is an old Douglas fir. Not a super old one, but okay. I really like this tree. It turned out good. And it wasn't that really hard to build this one, really, but you know, but trees are like that. You know, we all get one of these now and again. Okay, so before I jump to this tree to show you what I'm going to, just to put a oil wash, transparent wash over the acrylic base coat, I want to just show you quickly, like driftwood. So you can't tell what's real or not here, really, can you? I mean, you sort of can, because I told you, but see all these light pieces? Like this is just this, right? Remember how I showed you how you take like these are so easy to make, these, and they look awesome, right? Deadwood. Remember how I showed you how you grab a pair of cutters like this and a dowel, and you just go like you bite into it and you rip it like that. Right? And there you look at that. And then you take this, you take coarse molding paste and you paint it on and you do this. with the little rake that I showed you or whatever, right? You just put in some bark, and this is what you end up with. Look at these, man. You can't tell that they're not real. Like they look, you know, if I mix this up, you know, probably, like, where's another one here? Look at this one. Is that real or is that a model? It's a model, and the twigs won't break, right? So if you use twigs, fine, right? People do, but they fall apart. You know, eventually you bump them and the stuff breaks off. Like there's no model integrity to them, but these there is, and these are easy to make. Just out of wire. Here's another one, look. I used crackle paste on this, and it sort of does a funny little sort of barky crackle to it. Again, this kind of stuff, artist supply. Here's here's another. See, I mean, here's one was a little bit of a reject, but you know, I'm going to put moss on this and turn it into a windswept little rooty stunted tree or something, you know, right? And then all this debris is all the same. It's all this wood chip stuff dyed in coffee. Strong instant coffee. It's nice too, because when you open it, oh, it's nice Java. Anyway, so, right, so it's all models, and it's all ready, like it'll last indefinitely. That's why I do it. That's why I want to share it to you, because if you want to try it out, it's a really good way to create your terrain for your diorama or layout, specifically or especially if you're building a small intimate shelf layout or diorama and you want it to be really ultra realistic and to be able to take bumps and a bit of abuse and, you know, leaning on it, whatever. It's going to be tough, right? Like these trees are tough, right? And they can handle it. Okay, so I'll just show you this old growth tree now. So this is, right, cardboard tube with a wooden dowel glued to the inside. So I can mount it to paint, etc. Then I covered it with cell clay just to get some, you know, texture on it for grip and to solidify all the wire, the stem wire in place. Okay, you can see it under there. You won't see any of this. I'll probably paint this out, but this will all be underneath and it won't be exposed, so you don't really need to do much there. And then I'm going to base this out white. Everything gets white. Every single piece on this diorama, everything, like the driftwood, the trees, the rock, all the ground, everything you see is all models. Like they're all, like it's all modeled from scratch, right? Like there's no pieces that go on that aren't painted. Even if it's groundwork, turf, grass, everything gets painted. Okay, nothing is left the original color, whatever it is. Found objects if you use, or just dirt or terrain or crushed up leaves or whatever. It all gets painted or stained with inks or whatever. So the whole diorama is actually a three-dimensional painting. And I thought I would just mention with trees as well, like when you're building a big tree like this, obviously you're just building one, like a feature tree. But when you're building all the smaller trees and the background stuff, if you need, let's say 3 trees, build 6 or 9, okay? Because you're going to pick the best 3 that you're going to use up front, and then you can push the other 6 or 9 to the back, okay? Always build extras. I wouldn't build 2 of these, I'd just build 1 because it just makes sense, right? But Whenever you're doing a lot of the driftwood, roots, stuff like that, it's good to make lots of extras to pick from it, and then what's left over you use for another model or another background scene or whatever, okay? So you can see I'm just making up broken up log debris and driftwood. A pair of nippers makes the job easy and random. And then what I'm doing is I take all this, I just throw it into a slurry of 50-50 water and matte medium. Okay. Matte medium is very forgiving. It's not sensitive to ratio. It does the job. Like if I was to lay this down on a one big pile, it would all stick together just as you see it. Okay. So I just want to soak it good, and then I'm going to lay it out on parchment paper. Just spread it out on a piece of parchment paper like this here. Okay. And I'm just going to leave the matte medium in the container and then pull it out. Some say, well, why don't you just put it on the layout and dab it in? Well, it's nice to have it already pre-sealed and coated with matte medium so you can place individual pieces or smaller groups of pieces and arrange them. And then when you just use some of this to soak it with on the diorama, matte medium, again, it bites and seals it in really nicely. So, and you can pre-paint it like ahead of time if you want, right? So I just wanted to show you this here. This is all just debris that I made up from ripping apart wooden dowels with cutters, right? Remember? Just took wooden dowels with some nippers and just ripped away and just started working away to make all this rotted, broken up logs and wood. Then I took some peat moss. Okay. I haven't added any matte medium to this, and then I added some peat moss and cut up sisal rope and just some dried leaves, stuff that that you collect, that most modelers or anyone that builds dioramas has tubs, yogurt tubs full of stuff, right? So there's 3 or 4 ingredients there mixed in, and then what I do is I put it in a yogurt cup and dumped in some raw umber ink and water, and then some instant coffee. I find instant coffee works really good, like 2 or 3 tablespoons in a yogurt cup. And just let it soak for half a day. And now I'm just spreading it out on a piece of parchment paper, and I'm going to see what it looks like tomorrow. See if it loosens up, just see what kind of how it behaves, because I don't want to soak it, add any soak or add any matte medium yet, because I might want to spread it around a bit. But some of it mats together, and that's the peat moss. Oh, and I also added some static grass as well. And you can look at this piece right here. That's really cool. And the binder there is the peat moss. Pretty cool, eh? Diorama builders will do this kind of alchemy stuff. I've been doing it since I was a kid. And that's how you find, really cool terrain material. Like this is perfect for West Coast terra firma and old growth forests and stuff. Like all this rotting wood and pine needles and, just foliage, just layers and layers of foliage after hundreds of years, right? And then we introduced logs to this. I'm quite pleased with how this has turned out. You can see a piece of wooden dowel right there. That's just a wooden dowel. Look at it. Isn't that nice? Here's another piece. It's a wooden dowel. See the peat moss and the crap on there, and just does its own thing, right? Okay, so all found outside, except of course the wooden dowel I just picked up at the hardware store or whatever. But all this other materials: sisal rope, static grass, peat moss, and fragmented wooden dowels with instant coffee mostly and some raw sienna ink. Okay. Okay, so this is just a 1/2 inch wooden dowel. You can get it at any lumber place, hardware store, Home Depot, whatever. So I'm going to make some, rotting snag type logs, right? So I'm going to use a wooden dowel and I'm going to expose some of that rot just with a pair of nippers like that. See? See how easy it is to do that? Okay. Now let's just, I kind of like that. Maybe I'll just cut through here, cut through there. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to put some bark on it. So I'm going to take a number 8 brush, some coarse molding paste, and I'm just going to goop it on. This is modeling, right? You're modeling driftwood or rot or snags or tree bark or whatever. This particular product is like heaven to me because it's just such a beautiful viscosity and consistency when it comes to modeling. Well, a lot of textures. I use it for stone, concrete, and tree bark. Just feather some of it out like that. Lay it on a bit heavier where you want to stipple it, and I'll show you that in a second. So then get a piece of parchment paper. Okay, don't cover up all the cracks and details like I'm doing right now. Let some of that show through, and don't be overly like methodical. Like let just when you're stabbing it on, like let the randomness of that stab create its own effects, right? Okay, so I take a brush like this. It's just a it's an actual oil brush, just to flap it. It's all ragged. You can do that. Just snip the end with scissors. Snip it and make it rough. Okay, take one of your and just cut it like that so it's all rough like that. Small scissors. Now I'm going to take this and I'm just going to stab it. Make sure it's dry. Just stab it in. Stab, dab, whatever. And there you go. Now once that's dry and you paint that up with a base color and then just put washes on it, you can put really thin washes here to leave a kind of rot like that. Okay. And if you want to keep some of these loose pieces like intact, take some matte medium, diluted 50-50 or so in a little tray, and just soak it first, and it'll just solidify the whole thing into a hard, rigid model. Okay. Okay, so the big old maple. And what I've done is I've mixed up some very dark violet. Not really a mauve, but like if you were to add a lot of white to this with a bit of red, it would turn mauve, but because it's basically violet. Like this is Prussian blue and rose permanent with some umber pulled in. And then I didn't find it to be quite dark enough, so I added a little bit of ivory black. So it's got that gray, sort of violet tendency to mauve. Like mauve here is more warm, but this is more cool, but that's what I want for a wash. Because maples are like that. Like they're not, I mean, it is warm looking, but I want to add, because it's in the background, and I want to highlight all this grain with a wash of this strong violet gray. Okay, because it's not going to show that dark, but it's going to be transparent when I put thinners on it. So I'm going to stab some of it in, like down here, into these areas, these dark crevices. Ah, that's what I wanted. Yes. There, that looks beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, see, it's got a violet gray, which is what I'm after. A lot of times you just have to go by what you see and feel, the color you want to reproduce, like the photograph. You study the photo, and if you've mixed paint a lot or done a lot of washes, you just start to get a feel for it. Like, you don't have to be a master color mixer in this game. You just practice and try stuff, and you'll learn what colors do what. You know, some people can just look at a book and read numbers and do it, where other people like to feel. They're more visual. I've always been a very visual artist, not mathematical so much, and works out good.